Survivor specialist Phil and Alexa are back with our episode 6 predictions and power rankings for season 42. And today we are joined by Peridiam, who is going to sit here and help us break down everything that possibly could happen during this next episode of Survivor. We know the Hourglass twist is coming back. We know that we're going to probably be a little annoyed at least something that happens, but we need to find something positive here, and that's why we brought Peridiam in, because he tries to spin it nicely, even when I think he's not happy with it. Peridiam, thank you so much for joining, and how you feeling about this season so far and what we're about to see?
I've enjoyed it a pretty good amount. I mean, I'm usually, like you said, I'm usually somebody who I'll look for the silver lining if I can find it, and Survivor always is a silver lining. So like even with all the twists and whatever, I think 42 has been working out better because we already know what's going on. We're anticipating it. I think I haven't like crunched the numbers. I doubt I ever will, but it feels like we're like seeing more scenes of the people interacting and less of them like reacting to just twists happening. I mean, it might be because the producers know the audience has already seen everything. So we don't need to focus so much on like, whoa, look at this crazy thing. You know, it's more just like, yeah. We already got it. So I think that's contributed. But for the first 5 episodes, this has been good. I don't have too many complaints. I think last season, episode 3 with Brad going was like one of my like probably bottom 10 episode of Survivor, in my opinion. I thought that was the worst episode of the season and one of the worst episodes in Survivor history. And it was like, if that episode was like how Survivor went all the time, I would be, I don't know. It would no silver linings. There was very little silver lining there. So, but yeah, I've been enjoying 42 a lot more.
It might have turned you into a strictly Big Brother podcaster, perhaps.
Oh no.
There's just a lot more and I think you're right, because we don't need a lot of things explained to us this go around, but there is just so much camp life. And for a tribe like Taku, which is 4 people who, all things considered, are working really, really well together, the majority of their content has been about their personalities and about how different they all are, and yet how they still work together. And Green has been just a total hot mess together, but they've been going tribal. And Blue, we really had only one episode where they were completely quiet, but I still feel like I have a very good grasp of where all 4 of them stand with each other. So going into the merge, I feel like I have absolutely no idea who's going to go home. And I think every single group of 4 is going to totally shatter into pieces. But I think I have an idea of what each player's personality is like, but also what their motivations are probably like.
Yeah, I feel like Ika is a little bit more, reminds me of more of last season, how they edited, and the fact that they completely didn't even show them in one episode was pretty amusing. I don't know if they've ever done that in Survivor history, where they just literally zero footage of a tribe other than at the challenge. But yeah, I think you're right about that. Like, I also think like just the cast itself has been really fun. I don't know if it's just the way that these people have come together or if it's individual people that I like. I really like most of them. I don't really have any problems with any of them. I think all of them are, I think a couple of the people that are already gone, I was like, they're okay. Like, I don't know if I'm going to miss them too much. But, or maybe it's just the editing, but either way, and the dynamics of each tribe is like uniquely divided and yet somehow has to work together. And there's all these crazy, like little advantages here and there that are going to lead to, I don't know what's coming up for next episode.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm the most intrigued, is how many advantages we have this time, but also like where do these tribes all stand with each other? I saw a good point. I forget where it was, but somebody said that we probably missed out on the advantage that Liana Xander thing happened, whatever that was called.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, because that was probably supposed to be last week when they went and neither person actually took the chance. So now that we don't have that, I kind of like we know we have 3 extra votes with Drea, with Hai, and with Lindsay. We know we have 3 idols with Mike, with Marianne, and with Drea. We also know that Drea has another extra vote.
And Marianne
has another.
And Omer can't vote.
So there's a lot that's going on in this episode, which in past seasons, like if this was in 41, this would have frustrated me. But the reason it's not frustrating me is I think they are doing such a better job of telling us who all of these people are and why like we should care about each of them. And like I look at Jonathan and Marianne, they couldn't be any more different. And yet I'm really enjoying watching both of them. Last season, we were kind of like watch Shan and Ricard and everybody else is still on the island. Go find them. They're there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think like this season has just done such a better job of getting into all of the dynamics of the tribe. I mean, we saw a solid 5 minutes of fishing last week, and it actually was integral into why somebody was voted out of the game.
Mhm.
I love that. And I think that's important to the show. And I also think that's why, even though we're going to get the hourglass here, there are so many ways to save yourself this season that Sydney didn't have the opportunity to save herself with, because there are so many idols and there are so many advantages that have made it this far in the game. Normally I would hate that, but if we have to have the hourglass, I love that we have it, because it's allowing for these people who are going to be screwed at some point this episode to still have a chance if they can work their way through.
Yeah, I would also say, like, because we're only 5 episodes in, but if you look at the first 5 episodes of last season, you're looking at UA. It's really like the UA show. They went to 4 of the 5 tribal councils, I think. I think episode 5, yeah, was the genie boot. So you're reduced down to Shannon Ricard. And, you know, that might be a little bit of circumstances didn't work out in their favor, because it, like, they have to show those scenes and it's only going to the Green Tribe. So we really knew Shannon Ricard pretty well. But then you got all the blue, like they were, I thought they were edited very poorly, and you didn't really see them very much. And I'd say like one of the most important duos of the whole season, arguably the most, Erica and Heather, were like literally just not there. They just were not on the screen. Heather was not on the screen, and Erica was barely touched on with her relationship with Heather. It was hard for me to buy when they're like halfway into the season, and they're like, oh, and then Erica and Heather are this duo and they're really strong. And I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so I think there's like a little bit of circumstance didn't work into 41 compared to 42, where we've had all the tribes go to tribal council. We've seen it, all of them at least once go. And we've now, and of course we lost Jackson. So that reduced the Taku tribe to 4 already. So now I've got this interesting 4-4-4 split. I think I look at like 41 and I'm like, it's really, I don't want to get too stuck up on this point, but like the advantages in the too many production interfering with it's just producer meddling, just throwing out, here's the Beware, here's the Shipwheel Island, and they have to go through the rhythm of explaining it to the audience and to the players. And it got too much for me. And I look at a season like, say, Philippines, which had the exact same situation, but yet was always about the players. There was no garbage reading, going on a boat in the night and like watching Brad have to strategize. And then he ends up getting all these toys and then he gets voted out in like 30 minutes. It was like, instead we had like the debate of like Angie and Russell and Denise and Malcolm. And I sort of compare those seasons because they also had four tribal councils with Matt Singh going. But yeah, I love that season, and 41 is like drastically lower if I had to rank them. 42, I think circumstances have also worked out in its favor. So I think that's something to consider when we look at the first 5 episodes. At least it could fall, it could go off the rails starting at the merge. Might be singing a different tune, but we're not there yet.
Let me ask you.
2-hour swing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is a 2-hour episode that could be make or break. And obviously we know that something that all 3 of us heavily dislike is coming back. But because of this cast, just if you look at it from top to bottom, is there anybody on this cast that them going home due to this twist would feel really, really terrible or particularly good? And I know obviously the reason I'm asking is because last year Sydney was so polarizing. Some people hated her from the moment that she appeared in the pre-game press. But then she also did nothing wrong. Like, she never went to a tribal. She won every immunity challenge. She did everything she was supposed to do in the game of Survivor. What'd you say?
She played her shot in the dark. That was
the thing she did wrong. But again,
I know
she won everything she was supposed to. This season, we have seen two tribal councils for every tribe except for the orange tribe, which had Jackson go home. But does that make it not sting as much when somebody gets screwed by this? Because there's nobody who's like playing like Sydney, Danny, Erica, Heather, Deshawn, and who am I missing?
Heather.
Whoever. Who?
Heather.
Nasir. They were playing a perfect game up until the merge. Like, they had done nothing wrong. And then the merge hits, and the people who were on the winning portion of it had still done nothing wrong, and then totally got screwed by production, and Sydney goes home. Do we feel that it won't be as powerful this time because everybody has had a chance to go home at this point, or does it not matter and this is just stupid?
To me, it all matters on if the players are aware of what's happening. I think, I mean, the obvious answer is it would be devastating for fans and the show if Jonathan is the one who goes home as a result of this. But I think also if, like, I don't want to say like, oh, well, I've only seen X amount of this person, so I can live without them. If I'm a player and I go home because like this rule purposely kept me behind something, that's ridiculous. If they have if Jeff can even explain it in a way that they know what they're signing up for, even though they're not actually signing up for it, then I won't be as upset.
Yeah. I think for the most part, it's I just look at the twist itself and it's just a dumb twist. It's just not, I just don't find it very interesting. So I feel like regardless of whether we know them better or not, I would feel bad for whoever. I'm going to feel bad for whoever goes because it wouldn't, like Sydney wouldn't have gone last season had this not happened and reduced the eligible voting pool to like 4 Luvu for winning a challenge. Like that's weird. That doesn't make, and it's like, Jeff's words it. He always loves to spin the twist as like, you have to earn your way in. I'm like, they did. They won like 6 immunity challenges. Why is that? Why do you get punished? That doesn't add up. It's the same problem I have with like even one of my favorite seasons in Survivor China, the swap is it's the worst swap in the history of the show. And it's one of my favorite seasons. I know, Phil, I think it's your favorite. And I still acknowledge that, like, yeah, it might be my favorite too, but I'm like, yeah, that was really garbage. And I felt bad for both people who went, even though the strategies were somewhat interesting with the throwing. And I'm like, maybe we'll see something interesting happen. Maybe it will create like a more compelling season in spite of it. But I highly doubt it's going to be because of it in a way. Like, that's sort of my take on it.
We're essentially like at a point right now where we know whatever happens on Wednesday night, we're going to be frustrated. And we just need to get through. Like, we are literally going for a root canal on Wednesday night.
I think that's like the difference with 42 to 41. Like, I didn't know exactly what I was in for. And this time around, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm in for.
I know what this is going to feel like. It hurts. They keep playing with the nerve. And now, though, we're going to get through it. But we know that, like, once it's over, we also know that it didn't impact the game the way we thought it was going to last year. While Sydney was totally screwed, my biggest concerns were now Danny, Deshawn, they're screwed. And in reality, Erica wins, but she didn't win because of the Hourglass twist. Like, that's not why she won the game.
Yeah, she didn't know.
It didn't really matter at all. So knowing that this year, let's say Jonathan does go home, I'm going to be pissed because I love Jonathan. I think Jonathan is great TV. But I'm also going to know that doesn't mean Lindsay, Marianne, and Omer are done after that just because Jonathan went home, because we saw it not work out that way last year. We all know we got to go for the root canal. But at the end of the day, like, we might have a better smile afterwards. That's all we can hope for.
That was excellent.
You're welcome. Look at that. Look at this. That is an analogy Jeff would be proud of.
Well, yeah, but then Jeff wouldn't air it because it means you'd be critiquing.
Right.
He would critiquing a popular twist. Or quite unpopular twist. But I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also annoying because you can kind of already know, we know what we're getting. It's the same challenge, which means you know that, like, if I'm just being honest, I don't remember exactly what the puzzle was at the end. I think it was it a word scramble, or was it?
I don't remember.
It wasn't very hard.
The physical portion was gave you a huge leg up, and it's like, you know, the tribe that gets Jonathan is going to probably win that challenge. Odds on, like, that's an easy bet. So what we also can deduce then is Jonathan's probably going to be he's going to have a target on his back. He's going to be in the firing range. He's going to be the guy who's like, if they don't either find the numbers, Taku or Marianne doesn't play our idol on Jonathan, there's a decent chance Jonathan's going home. And we don't even have to watch the immunity challenge. We don't have to, like, look at who goes to the Hourglass Island or whatever you want to call it. You don't really have to, because you know Jonathan's most likely going to win that challenge. His tribe is going to win that challenge, his team. And then you know he's going to have that stripped away, that tribe, that whole 5. So it's like, who's he with? That'll be the biggest thing for me in that first hour, is like, who gets Jonathan, and who's he? What are the colors? What are the numbers? Is it 4 Luvu like last season? Suddenly, and then you've got just Evie, but then you've got an idol that gets. I actually wasn't played on Evie last season, but still that was the whole knowledge is power or switcheroo. So it's kind of like you can kind of map out what this merge is going to look like, which isn't my favorite, but hopefully my expectations are a little low. But I'm like, I went into the season with like middling expectations, and I've sort of they've been superseded by everything that we've got. So I'm hoping it's the same way with these coming up 2 hours.
I do think too, at least from the edit I'm watching, I feel like the winner is coming from Taku. I really do. Like that is really where my heart is at. They are being shown to be together, united. They don't have this infighting. They're not being shown as wishy-washy. Now, Drea or Romeo could easily win. I really think that as well. And over on green, I think Hai is playing a fantastic game, an absolutely fantastic game. I think Mike is also playing a very good game, and everybody knows I love
Mike's
Mike.
Playing better, even possibly.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it in the rankings.
Mike's had a lot of his back against the wall, but based on what I've seen, I am confident that Jonathan is going to get through this episode no matter what, because even though him and Marianne had their little fight last week, I think that's drama for the sake of drama. Yeah. And I think that if anything, it's going to show how good these two people are at playing the game. And because I'm looking at that group of 4, and I don't think Lindsay's going to be the one who wins. Omer, Jonathan, and Marianne. Which one of them is going to pull out the win? This is a very good week to show off how good they are at Survivor. Because Jonathan's back is going to be against the wall. And if he can survive this, being who he is, after he's going to dominate this challenge, that's going to be huge. And you have to remember, even though Omer doesn't have a vote, Lindsay has 2. Marianne has 2. And
Lindsay
Marianne has
2?
an idol.
Oh, she's got the amulet.
She's got the amulet. Yeah, so they all have 2.
Sorry. I was just going to say, is the amulet? I thought it was the 3 combined as 1 is an extra vote.
Oh, is that all it is?
Someone put that in the chat when we were talking earlier, and it may be the case.
I was hearing
that's hard to understand.
I was talking to like Mike Bloom, who he's sort of involved a little bit with like the press behind the scenes, and he was explaining it to me as that's how it works. Like each amulet combined is equal to 1 extra vote, so it's not a single. So like if you lose one of the 3, like say Hai goes, it's now no longer worth an extra vote. It's now if the 2 people have it combined together, they get a vote steal. Okay. So
it's 1. So Lindsay
it's actually kind of weak.
One.
It's like a third of an extra vote, basically.
And then you got to convince 2 people that you've barely met. Other than
right. I think I saw it initially, and I was like, I think this is more of like the bounty to it. It's like a twist I've seen thrown out a lot, which is something I've found really interesting. It's like this bounty twist where you have to take somebody else out of the game and you get something from them, almost like the legacy advantage in a way. It puts a bounty on their head, or like they're worth some value in the game, like literal value, not just like taking them out increases your odds of winning. And so in this case, it's like if you vote out one of these 3 players, then either you or your ally who's holding the amulet now has a little bit more power, because the vote steal, I think, is worth more than an extra vote. An idol is worth more than a vote steal, and so on.
Got it.
I think it's a decent twist, to be honest. Actually, I was excited when it first showed up. I'm like, of all the advantages to throw out there, I think they could nix like a lot of the ones that they've done and never bring them back. But I'm like, amulet one, I could see it come back. It'd be interesting. It so far hasn't done anything.
Yeah, it's creative because it makes you question the like individual versus being a part of an alliance, and like there's benefits to both.
Let me throw this one up before we get going here. Ryan Chan, do you think the merge boot could be an Eliza situation? Tribal alliances get thrown out and everyone unanimously boots the person they don't like. My problem is, do we think that there's somebody on this cast that everybody would unanimously not like?
Is there anyone they're all going to like gang up on? And
because Eliza was known going into Micronesia as whatever she was of Vanuatu. People had a background on Eliza. There's no background on these players.
I also feel like with 3 tribes, it complicates it a lot because they haven't all interacted. So whereas beforehand, like half the tribe in Micronesia already knew each other. Like they already had that established. And then they also only had 2 tribes at the swap, which allowed like Parvati and Amanda to like create that majority with the fans. So they didn't even need Eliza. I don't know what we're going to see. Like, I don't see that happening this time. I think we're going to get 2 divided sides with like random, a little bit of randomness on both sides.
Yeah, I think especially in merge boots, there are often, I think people are always a little nervous to start playing, so that sometimes the merge boot is the easy option. But I think, and this is not me speaking positively of the Hourglass twist, but I think the Hourglass twist might kind of prevent that because it forces you to zero in on X number of people. And the players are probably just completely altering their strategies from the ones they've been talking about a couple hours previously.
It's a little bit like a Big Brother twist, even though I know people hate to say it if you don't watch Big Brother, where like Big Brother, the power is like it starts at the beginning of the week, like anyone can go, and then one person wins the HOH or the immunity challenge, and then it reduces to just 2 by the end of the week, so only 2 people can get voted for. It's kind of like that in this case, where it's like it starts with 12, one person gets taken off the board, and now it's like 5 or 6. I think it's 5 with the Hourglass.
I think it's
not
5.
exactly the same. And I don't think Survivor needs it, which is my biggest gripe with it, but oh well.
So let's hop over to these rankings, knowing that Alexa loves the Hourglass twist because that's what she just said, right? But let's hop into these and let's start doing that. So we got 1 through 12. We got 12 people left, 4 people on each tribe. Pretty, I'm going to open it to you first. Who's your safest person this week? Who do you have at number 1?
Whew. I actually don't know if so. Initially, I will say this. I put together 2 power rankings. One was just based off of their first 5 episodes, but I don't think I'm going to use that one because I think it's going to become irrelevant. And then I got my one going into the merge. And the person I think is probably the safest, I'm going to say the person I have at the top for a couple of different reasons. I put Drea at the top. And I don't know necessarily, like, she's definitely a threat. I could see her potentially catching some votes. I think there's a lot of really good reasons to vote her out, but I think between having Romeo and probably Rocksroy in her pocket, I think having obviously all 3 of those advantages in her pocket with the idol, the extra vote, the amulet, she's got connections and incentive for Hai and Lindsay to not maybe vote her out. Maybe they'll look at the other way, but we'll see. I don't know. I could see her being just the safest.
We have the same number 1. I had Drea as my winner pick preseason. And I just think with all the hardware she has coming into this, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be very difficult to get her to go home. And especially in a situation where she's one of 5 people who can go. If she feels those numbers are going against her, she is going to make sure she doesn't go home. Like she is going to do everything she can to make sure she doesn't go home. She has an idol. She has an extra vote. She has this amulet thing. I just think that she is going to be able to get through this. I also think that she's at a bit of an advantage that if you look at her tribe, even though they're splintered, I feel like Tori might come out as some chaotic energy at this merge because that just seems to be who Tori is on this season. It seems like she's always had her back against the wall. And now it's how can I desperately get these people to like me? And she's doing it really well right now. But when she hits a merge, she might go so hard against her tribe that there might be connections that happen that actually work in Drea's favor. I thought Tori was a liability to Swathi, and it worked out that way. I actually think that Tori has now become reliable and helpful to the other members of her tribe because I don't think she's going to come across necessarily believable if she gets in a situation where her back's against the wall with a bunch of people she hasn't spent any time with.
I have Drea's right-hand man at number 1. I have Romeo at number 1. Kind of for similar reasons. I think that Romeo he's the only person whose name hasn't even remotely come up from the Ika tribe originally. And I think let me just decide if I feel strongly about saying this. I think out of all of the duos that will probably still stay together, I think about Hai and Lydia, Jonathan and Omer, Romeo and Drea, I think, are probably the strongest of the 2. They've never faltered. They've both heard, or mostly Romeo's heard information about Drea, relayed it to her. She's never been threatened or angry. I think he's aware of all 3 of her advantages, or he at least knows about 2 of them. And so I think I have him higher up just because he is aware of what she has, but I don't think that now would make any type of sense to get rid of Drea. I have Drea at number 3, so pretty much the exact same situation. I think the 2 of them are in a really, really excellent position, especially because Rocksroy and Tori, to your point, Phil, I think even though Tori said that there's no loyalty, they're all she knows, and that's all Rocksroy knows too.
I was gonna actually put Romeo at number 1 because I don't think there's any more of a lock than him being on the losing tribe. But Jonathan is such a wild card. Like, Jonathan is so much better than everybody else at physical challenges. And we know this challenge is physical. Whoever had Danny last year was going to win. Whoever has Jonathan this year is going to win. And if Romeo teams up with him, he's going to win anyway. So I was really tempted to put him at number 1 because to me, it just seems like he's going to be on the losing tribe. Therefore, he will be safe. But if he ends up with Jonathan, he's going to be on the winning tribe. And then but I still say, why would they vote him out? He's not a challenge threat right now. However, has the game changed so much that people are going to start looking at people like him as a challenge or as a threat because of the puzzles and things like that. And they almost get frustrated with the fact that you were on this tribe that won. You were the weakest member. This twist does feel like it's targeting the stronger people. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, is the rest of the game going to work out like this? Maybe we should get rid of Romeo. So I want to put him at 1, but I ended up dropping him just a little bit further down.
Yeah, I have him up in my top 30% of my list. He's number 4 for me.
Okay.
I do have 2 people above him, below Drea though, but he's up there for the same reasons you guys said. I think he's low key a threat to win this as well. He did talk about how he wants to like help elevate Drea, but I'm like, it could easily turn around into him being the one who gets elevated to the top because of all, like, she'll definitely start drawing a lot of heat, especially as this gets known. Like, they'll know she has the idol because of what happened episode 5. So that could be a problem, and maybe she misplays it. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen a player misplay an advantage. And so it's like, if it's a good thing to have these things in your pockets, all these different little, I call them island toys, but you need to know how to use them correctly too. And we haven't seen really too much idol play or anything like that come out yet. In fact, we've seen more of the opposite this season so far. So
yeah,
will she join that esteemed list? I don't know.
Just keep throwing the shot in the dark. People are totally overestimating how valuable the shot in the dark is. It's not.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
not a good thing. It's not
the same thing with most. I think most advantages get overestimated, except for maybe the idol, and like Galoo would obviously hate me for saying that. Like, other than the idol, I think most advantages are overestimated for like how powerful they really are.
Yeah, I mean, if you know you're going home, do the shot in the dark, but your vote is a 100% certainty to go on the person you want. You being safe is a 16% chance. Unless you don't think it's a split, like we saw what happened with Sydney, you don't play that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I hope Peridiam doesn't have the same number 2 as me, so I'm gonna let Peridiam go first again because he's the guest. But I feel like we might be on the same page here, just seeing where he put Romeo.
Well, so I ended up looking at it, and I decided I was gonna have my top 3 were gonna be one person from every tribe.
Yeah, we're gonna have the same too.
Are we?
Maybe
I might blindside you.
Same number 2.
I might blindside you because the person I put here, again, I looked at it like who's most likely safest, who's most likely at the very least can protect themselves if they have to, if it comes down to it. I put Marianne at number 2.
Oh, okay. I have Mike. So
I also have Mike at number 2.
Okay, well, yeah, I could spoil it and say Mike is at number 3 for me.
Okay, I knew it was coming.
Mike is up there. I almost had him at number 2 for what it's worth. I put Marianne a little bit above him. The common denominator is that they both have idols. Yeah. And I think when you're down in 1 in 5 chance of getting voted out, which is what's going to happen, there's going to be a 1 in 5 chance. Whether they are eligible to be voted for because of the hourglass, I don't know. But having an idol in your back pocket, knowing that there's a 20% chance or higher that you could get votes, this isn't a regular merge. Regular merge, you have 12 people, 11 of them can get voted for. So you're more likely to do like Chris Noble or somebody and not play your idol when you need to. I think Marianne and Mike both having an idol is a huge thing. I also think Marianne is just somebody that's not going to draw as much heat. It could have the reverse where the smallest player gets the biggest target. But I look at her, I'm like, I think people are going to look at her and underestimate her and like size her down and say like she's small. She's probably going to have a loud personality. We don't really need to get rid of her right now. She's probably not a huge threat. Most likely not going anywhere. So for at least the next episode going into the merge, I'm not really worried about Marianne going unless she could be like a consensus boot, but I don't see that happening.
I think something that could be really interesting that could happen here, because I'm looking at my top 2. I go Drea, Marianne. You have your top 3, all as the people who are, idol holders. Alexa, you have Mike, Andrea, both in your top 3. What if out of these 5 people, Mike, Drea, what if it's Mike, Drea, Marianne, Jonathan, and then somebody else? They all know they have idols. They all know it. Does that turn into a desperation? We have to play idols thing, because that's the other thing too. It's not like these idols are hidden at this point. And the other thing is most of the tribe knows that these other people have idols because they've all been so clued in on what's going on. So the idols are pretty well known right now. Does that keep a target off of a person like Marianne's back, no matter who she's there with? And if we do end up with 2 or 3 people who have idols and it's pretty well known, is that going to totally screw the other 2 people who are, or 2 or 3 people who are in this situation?
I want it to be in a situation that almost happened last year where all of them know that they're the idol people and then they decide to work together as a result of it. I want that to happen because I feel like so many times you see let's get rid of each other's idols, but not so often like let's come together because of them. And with I guess that group is Marianne, Mike, and Drea. I could totally see the 3 of them working together. So I don't know.
I just said like they all have idols, so I put them in my top 3 for each of their tribes. I'm like, I think those 3 are people probably going to make it at least through the next episode. I'm not too worried. It would take like a colossal like misplay to see any of them go, I think.
Well, here's another one from Gabe L. Hey, Phil and Alexa, I've watched since season 35 and love your content. 2 thoughts. 1, hate this Hourglass twist and that it'll end someone's game. That's only one. Here's the second one. Second, thought, what was the point of the TARP reward? If they were merging 2 days anyway, love you all. And I'm pulling for Romeo, Marianne, and Jonathan. That's actually really funny.
TARPs were an odd choice because Jeff was like, what food do you want? And they were like, anything. And he's like, well, here's a piece of plastic.
I was like, they're like going to merge in like 24 hours. Do they need a TARP? Like that's like an early game.
Are they keeping it?
Probably. I would hope. I would think so. It's not much of a reward if they'd lose it after like one day.
And now everybody just gets them anyway. So interesting. I have Romeo at number 3. So we're all high on Romeo. I just think Romeo's in the perfect position to be too he's just not going to be seen as a threat right now. I just don't see it happening. I almost talked myself out of putting him this high, but I couldn't do it. And I have Marianne at 4 because like everything that everybody said, what's the safest thing we can hope for right now?
We have the top 4.
We have the same one. I know. Look at that. I knew we were on the same page, but Marianne right now has an idol. And she seems like she's the type of player who, if anything goes wrong for her, she's going to play that idol. Like she seems like she's going to overplay the idol, which I actually think it's better. Play the idol and save yourself, even if you look like an idiot because you don't get any votes, rather than go home with the idol. I'd 100% rather play it and think, maybe I'm in trouble this week. I also think, though, Marianne's in an interesting spot because does she feel that the best way forward with her is with her tribe? We know her and Jonathan had their issue last week. However, her and Lindsay seem very tight. Is she going to have any type of loyalty to Jonathan, who we're all assuming is going to be in danger? Now, granted, we're not even taking into account. What if he just wins individual immunity? He should win individual immunity, but is it going to be the foot thing again? He's not going to win that.
I was going to say, if it's a toe challenge or foot challenge, is that
it's hard. But I just think Marianne, she's in this position where like she could have loyalty to somebody on her own tribe playing idol, save them. However, she might not. Even if she does do that, she's not getting the votes. They're not going to be splitting between Marianne and Jonathan. These people, they're going to be splitting. It's not like, we got to hurt Taku because they have numbers. No, everybody's even. So if you got Jonathan, split between Jonathan and Hai or something like that.
Also, Omer isn't voting, and I think that changes it a little bit because he won't have a vote, which means that Taku really only has 3. So I wonder if I was looking at the numbers and I was like, I wonder if the move is if you're green or blue, you like pick up the 3 orange votes and stack as 7, and that's all you need. You need 7 out of 12.
That's a good point.
Maybe that's what you do, and maybe orange is in the best spot now because of the fact that Omer can't vote. He has not much he can do about it.
That's a great point. I didn't.
And it makes Marianne more important because she has an extra vote. So they could net to 4.
Also, that
give that up, which who knows if she'll do.
This could be like a nuclear merge with all these advantages if they all come out. And knowing this cast and they play with like poker with like their cards facing the other way. Like that's what it's like. I almost wonder if that's like what we're gonna get with this merge. I would love it, but we'll see.
I think you're onto something with that though. If they have 3 votes, I didn't even think about that. You need 7. Come join us.
Yeah. In an unfortunate transition, I have Omer who doesn't have a vote at number 4. I'm gonna stick with that. I think his main detractor is that he is not aware that he doesn't have a vote. I would hope that he goes to Chanel. He's going to go to Chanel and they're going to talk. And either she'll lie to him and say he has a vote, but then she already doesn't have the trust of her 3 current tribe members. So I'm sure that there will be some conversation where he finds out that he doesn't have a vote. But that being said, I don't think he is, if you want to get rid of a taco, you're going to go for Jonathan, or you would go for Marianne because she has a public idol. I think Omer is in a really good position. He does have a relationship with Chanel, so he could, if he doesn't want to kill her, he could bring her over to vote with them because she might be flying solo right now.
I am so curious what Chanel's going to do in that situation because Omer doesn't know. And we have seen Chanel make questionable decisions throughout this game. Like, I understand we figured out why she voted for Mike, and it makes sense when you break it down. However, Mike also knows it now, and Mike is still in the game, and now he's not going to trust you. You just saw how little he trusted Daniel after everything. I am very curious to see if she will be completely straightforward with Omer. Because if she's not, is that helping her? But how is she going to use that to her advantage to say he doesn't have a vote? And I know he doesn't have a vote because she's going to know, because Omer doesn't have a choice but to talk to her about it. So he's going to know, or she's going to know, even if she lies to him. What is that going to do for the game? And is that going to help or hurt Vati?
If she can play her cards right and they blindside him because of that, that would be really, really impressive.
I feel like Chanel is prone to overplaying. I could see her lying here and causing a big problem for Vati. I don't know. I didn't even think too much about that at all. Like, I know Omer, I'm like, actually, Omer doesn't know he doesn't have a vote, I guess, because that was never confirmed to him. So yeah, that's a great way for Chanel to create inroads with probably the hot kids. They're going to be in the middle of it all. I feel like Taku is the people you need to get. They're the most cohesive. I just feel like if you're blue and green, we've seen so much that they're so fractured. I think the Orange Tribe is, like you said, Phil, much ado about nothing. There's just it's they had like one argument in like 2 weeks, so we got to see the argument. Big deal. So I'm like, if I'm one of the blue or green tribe, you probably want to go to the Orange Tribe and appeal to them, knowing that they only have 3 votes. So I feel like that would be a good way for Chanel to connect with Omer and be like, look, this is the situation. It was a cluster F back at our place. You need to know you don't have a vote. I'm with you. We talked a lot on the Shipple Island a couple days ago. Let's go for it. But I don't know.
I'm going to jump ahead. Marianne is my number 5. I just know we've talked about her so much. So yeah, I have her at number 5. I originally had her lower, but I think that she's somebody that both fans and players underestimate. And she has she's tied for second place with the most amount of advantages. So I think she probably knows like how to play her age up and play her like seeming like cute and naive, but I think she's playing pretty well. And I think that spat with her and Jonathan was nothing more than 2 siblings who are annoyed at each other. So I think that they will work together, and I think she's going to be in a really good position.
I'm what I'm trying to figure out as I move forward here, because who is Marianne going to connect with best from another tribe, right? Like, who would be Marianne's go-to?
Maybe because the Gen Zers.
That's a good point. So
not
now
Roxroy.
Not Roxroy. And that's my thing. Maybe Jonathan really likes Roxroy. But where my head is going with this is it going to be that green and orange are going to be more compatible? And that's going to leave blue kind of on the outs? But then I have a hard time because Drea has the idol. Romeo, I've already put, and then it's like Tori and Roxroy. Is Roxroy worth getting rid of right now? Maybe, but I don't know. And then Tori, I'm like, I do think she's overplaying and all that stuff, but like, I don't know. They just don't have a leg to stand on. But I'm feeling like Vati and Taku should be teaming up here just based on personalities.
I mean, I feel like a lot of early merge boots tend to be more like circumstantial than they are like the individual player needs to go. It's more like we need a blue or a green or an orange player to go just for numbers sake, so things can start stabilizing. So yeah, I could see somebody like Roxroy getting targeted just because he's on the blue team and maybe his social game is pretty bad and he's not able to connect with people as we saw. So I could see Roxroy copping, some heat if he's eligible.
Well, I'm going to throw out High here as my number 5. Now, I'm not confident in anybody from 5 through 12. I'm really not. I think any of them could go home for a variety of reasons. My thing is, this is 100% based on the edit. High feels like somebody that we're attaching to a little bit here. He, to me, feels a bit like what Shan would have been had she gone to 2 fewer tribal councils last season. Everybody really likes High. High is in your face with what his gameplay is. Lydia has been made very much to feel like his sidekick. She last week she had 5 confessionals. I think prior to that she had like 4 or 5 the entire season. Whereas High has been consistently getting the screen time. Feels to me like High is definitely somebody that we're supposed to connect with. I think with how Sydney's boot was taken last week, you're not going to lose somebody who is a huge fan favorite at this episode, because at the end of the day, they could have made Rupert a total blank piece of paper and awful in his first season. Like, nobody would have cared.
He's the weirdo with the tie-dye shirt on.
They could have made him awful. They could have done a Jacob Derwin to him if they really wanted to, but they didn't because they're editors. They could edit High out of this show if High was going to be the boot here. That's why I have High here. And I don't normally go based on things like that, but I just have to go based on that for this type of vote where we don't know the split, where we don't know who's going to go home. There's so many variables, so many idols and things like that. I just have to assume that even if High is on the losing side, they would not let him go home and piss off the fan base like that based on the reaction to what happened with Sydney last year. Survivor's learned a lot of lessons from 41. I have to say that we've seen this season.
Yeah, it's quite a meta pick.
That's all I can do.
Going beyond the show.
I have High at number 6. And my reason for that is I think he's like firmly in control of that Vati tribe. However, I don't think he doesn't strike me as somebody who needs to be in control or needs to show that he's in control. And I think the merge is sort of a time where people are still feeling each other out. So he has at least an automatic conversation with Lindsay and Drea. He has the full support of Lydia and Mike. He just has a lot of good people in the right places. And because he like sort of has an advantage, and there's obviously incentive to get rid of him, but he doesn't have anything nearly as public as other people. So I don't think he's going to be an immediate choice to get rid of.
You said you had him at number 5?
I had a 5, Alexis 6.
Yeah. Okay. So for my 5 and 6, they're both on the same tribe. I ended up picking Lindsay and Omer, mostly because I feel the most stable about them and their placement. I was like, they're too solid. They're in the middle. They're not. Marianne's got the idol. She's the least likely player, I think, to get targeted of the 4 of them, whereas I feel like Jonathan's probably the most likely player to get targeted. I also feel pretty good about their odds right now. I feel like between looking at the board with these 12 players, like they're 2 of the most stable in the whole cast. Omer's very level-headed. I like where he's at. I like where he's been for the first 5 episodes. I don't feel like he's likely to go, although I don't know. I could see him more in like in an Evie situation where I felt good about Evie, and then all of a sudden, numbers don't let Omer escape that. Nothing you can do about it. That could happen, and it gets bad luck. Although I also feel like what you're saying, if we're gonna go meta, Phil, I don't feel like Omer's that person who's gonna go there. If anything, it'd be more Lindsay. So you could probably interchange them. I think I have Lindsay at 5, Omer at 6, but you could swap them if you wanted to.
I don't want to, because I want you to get fewer points,
Okay. So I put Lindsay at 5 and Omer at 6.
I also have Omer at 6, and I actually do think that Chanel knowing, no matter what Chanel tells him, I think Omer is going to have a good read on her. Why? Because Omer so far has had a good read on everybody. He was the one who was saying, we don't need to be having these petty arguments. We don't need to be doing this. We don't need to be doing that. Like, he is getting on his tribe, which we like to see. So I think that Omer has had good enough reads throughout the entire season so far that when it does come to Chanel telling him whatever Chanel tells him, he's going to know what to do with it. And with him not having a vote, I just think that we're actually going to see some strategy from him. And guys, this is what we really need. Because actually, even though Chanel's going to know, if he can read her properly and know that he doesn't have a vote, he is now going to Jonathan and Lindsay and Marianne and saying, this is the situation. I don't have a vote. I now know I don't have a vote. You 3 need to be able to pull in 3 extra people because there's only 11 votes. We only need 6. And if Chanel tells him the truth, they try to go with Vati. If Chanel lies to him and he can feel it, if he can figure it out some way, somehow, if the producers go, hey, she lied, if something happens, I think that he goes against Chanel and whatever's going on with Vati, but him and his tribe are the only ones. Vati will know that, but they can use that as ammunition to try to pull Ikas in. So I do think Omer's in an interesting spot here. It's going to be beneficial to his tribe.
Yeah.
So meta.
I know. I just can't help it. What else are we supposed to do at this point?
I don't know about you guys. We're all up to 7 now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We also have a very similar, if not pretty much exact same bottom 7, which is pretty wild to think about. But I really
we know what we're talking about, this isn't our first rodeo.
We're all really stupid.
Yeah.
Or we're the opposite. It's the hourglass. Yeah.
Yep.
I have Roxroy at 7, and I actually feel like he's safe. He's somebody who I wouldn't be shocked if the group voted out. I've never heard someone be so self-aware about their lack of self-awareness, but and I think he knows that he isn't cut out for like present day type of gameplay. So I think that he's going to say, like, guys, just tell me where to vote. I don't think he would be the person to go home, but I also don't think he has many people who will raise their hand and say, no, let's keep him. So for that reason, I have him in the bottom half.
It gives me strong BB energy.
What a throwback.
He's good. He's good for the first 2 episode meta of Survivor history. After that, it's a little, he gets lost in the fold.
Yes. I love it. BB Anderson, what a legend. All right. Who's your 7, Peridiam?
My 7 is high. For me, it's high is, I think, somebody who could get targeted. If we're going meta though, I feel like your argument there is pretty strong, Phil. But I look at high and I'm like, he doesn't have any advantages. His tribe is quite fractured going into this. I don't know. Chanel could go off the rails. She's a gamer. She's on her own. Mike isn't. I think he's more circumstantial alliance with High and Lydia. I wouldn't be surprised. He could easily throw him to the wolves if he feels like he needs to. I trust Mike's ability to integrate with a larger group of people. Not only that, he has an idol. I think he's generally positioned better, which makes me feel wary about where High fits in with everything. And to be honest, like the bottom 6, I felt pretty good about my top 6. My bottom 6 here, I'm like, you could really rearrange it in any order.
Yeah.
Throw it up in the air. It's, it's all over the place. But I ended up landing with High. I feel like he's probably the most competent as far as surviving what we're about to see. So I don't know. I got him at 7. We'll see.
Here's my 7. And I think I knew that I was going to have the highest out of all of you, but I have Jonathan.
Well, I had the highest.
Yes, I have Jonathan. But here's my thing. And this is why I have Jonathan here at 7 ahead of so many other people.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think he's screwed. And I think he is going to be on the losing side.
I'm sold. He's screwed. I'm sold.
He's screwed.
Number 7.
He's screwed by the twist. He is screwed by the twist.
The inevitable.
However, I think he's got a great relationship with Omer, who based on, and obviously we're doing a lot of assuming here, but there's got to be a conversation between Chanel and Omer. There's no way in a 2-hour episode we're not going to see a conversation between Omer and Chanel about this. I think Jonathan is going to be able to, him and Omer are tight. Omer's going to be able to give him information. I think Marianne ultimately with that idol is going to be Taku strong. Now that sounds crazy, but I really think that she is going to be the anti-Terry Dietz. She's going to be like, you know what? If we got to play it, we got to play it. Let's keep ourselves strong and let's do what we got to do. I think Lindsay right now might be a stray bullet vote over Jonathan, but also Lindsay's going to work with Jonathan. So there's 3.5 votes here because we don't know if Marianne would play it. I think the wild card here, and I think finally Phil's dream of alpha male and super old guy teaming up and making a run at this thing. I think that Mike is a huge wild card here because I don't think, and you said it, I think it was you, Peridiam, or it was Alexa. The relationship with High and Lydia is very circumstantial for Mike. It's just because he's not going with Chanel. That's for sure. I think Mike's going to be looking for people to team up with. Who is he going to try to use as a shield to get through this game?
The only guy bigger than him.
The only guy bigger than him. And I know I'm doing a lot of assuming, but Mike and Jonathan, to me, feel like the perfect people to team up. Especially, a lot of times the older guy will be stubborn and be like, no, this is my tribe. I'm not going to abandon them. Especially because Mike has been abandoned by every single person on his tribe.
Yeah.
He is not going to have a problem flipping on them. And I think he could go with Jonathan. And now Jonathan suddenly has 4.5 votes. Who else can they get? Who can they work with? What can they make happen here with the Ika tribe or something like that? I think that a lot of people are going to want to use Jonathan as a shield. And I think that they're going to try to get rid of somebody who could take their seat at the final three. A Lindsay, a Lydia, a Roxroy, a Tori, something like that, where it's like, I could play the exact same game as them, but they get the final three and I don't. Whereas everybody's going to know if Jonathan gets to the final three, he's going to make a very compelling argument because of the fact that he had to overcome so much. I'm taking a huge shot here, but I have him at number 7.
I have Jonathan at 8 because I think he could win the individual immunity. Like, I think, unless it's a foot situation, which I don't know. He's probably still good at that, realistically. But I don't know what type of people are good at the foot thing versus who are not. I also think that Jonathan has allies. It doesn't feel like a Joe Anglim situation where he was so good but didn't really ever have anyone backing him up. Jonathan, like, I don't think Omer would say, hey, like, we need to get rid of him. So I think Jonathan, yeah, he's in a bad position, but I think he's still in the individual immunity. And I think he has a good backup group that will not be with him forever, but I think will be with him at least short term. No one has made a comment about even wanting to get rid of him yet.
Except Marianne.
That's true.
Yeah, Marianne did. And that could also, I mean, that did just happen last episode. That could have been set up. But I keep saying this, and I know there were differing takes on the internet, but there's always going to be differing takes on the internet, right? Because that's where we are. I really think that Jonathan came across looking self-aware in that situation because he kept stepping.
Very much so.
He stepped away from everything. He said, I can't be having these arguments. I'm going to look like the bully. I can't do that. And so what he was saying and what the editors wanted us to feel about him was, this guy knows his weaknesses and he knows who he doesn't really get along with and how he can make that work better for him. And the last thing he says to Marianne is, I love you. I got to walk away from you. I think that's huge. And I think that a lot of that was a red herring, maybe to set up how his self-awareness is going to ultimately get him through this next episode.
Yeah, I think oftentimes in Survivor, you see players get too cocky or too arrogant. It's not often they check themselves. Doesn't make for as good TV. So the fact that they showed us that from the guy who is most likely cast to create that is a huge sign. It's good for him.
Yeah.
I thought he was very self-aware. It's important. He acknowledges like what this is going to look like. And it's like, yeah, dude, you're huge and you're full of muscle and you're probably got a lot of voice. He was the caller in that one challenge. Yeah. We know he's got a lot of voice. So smart. This is a game of social politics. You gotta keep everyone. Don't argue. You shut it down as best you can. Of course, you rewatch the scene. I'm like, all right, I don't know what the circumstances of that tribe camp. Maybe don't hack when her foot's nearby. I get it. Yeah. Also, maybe be acknowledging like don't walk in the middle of the camp, Marianne. It goes both ways. At the end of the day, it's Omer is the right one in the group. It's stop. You guys being petty. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So speaking of Jonathan, I'm high on not just on high, or well, not really, but I'm high on the orange tribe. I have Jonathan at 8.
Okay.
And
I wasn't crazy with him at 7.
It wasn't crazy. No, I just want to give the reaction. I have 2. I have Vadi and Ika at the bottom. They've rounded up my bottom 4. Even though Jonathan is definitely, in my opinion, the most likely player to be targeted from Taku, and barring a blunder, I think I like 100% he's going to be eligible to be voted for. Just based on what we know from Survivor 41, we know how this is going to play out. We know the player with like the Danny or whoever of the tribe is going to be in the bad spot. The hourglass is going to get broken. It's not that compelling, Jeff. It was the problem. At least we don't have to wait a week to find that out.
Yeah.
This time around. God. We can yada. That's like, oh my God, I'm so happy. They're like, it's kind of bad because it's like they created this bad situation. They're like, now it's not as bad. I'm like, thank you, but it doesn't have to be this bad ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think Jonathan's most likely going to be in trouble, but I think he's likely to survive it because I feel worse about the 4 people beneath him. But it's hard to ignore like the circumstances of the situation here. And who knows, we have seen crazy merges and blunders even in this season so far. It wouldn't surprise me if somehow the guy who is most likely going to cop votes, still manages to go. It would be a huge shitstorm on the internet. Massive. People are, because he's being sold to us as like this Aussie almost, like this
Yeah.
new age Aussie kind of. He's massive. He's winning all these challenges by himself sometimes. Is he going to break the individual mini record? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But either way,
I think
Live
especially
Editing.
we've been kind of craving. I not everybody is obviously, but I've been craving a character like this where like we get back to like physical individual performance. I think that's something that's been
100%.
missing from the last couple seasons. We've seen so many Survivor nerds. I would be one of them. So like, what can I really say? But
Well, I'd
like,
be like Jonathan for sure.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I
There's
could drag a
something-
boat by myself. But
There's something to be said about like hold onto your seats, watching Survivor and enjoying the challenges. And
It's like James. It's like the James Clement
Yeah.
effect. He
It's
was a
very
fan
much-
favorite back to back for a reason. He's
and he barely did anything his second season. That's how
he
much
didn't, he didn't
people
win
loved
any
him in
individual
China.
immunities.
Never.
He won
Yep.
0 individual immunities.
And he's played 3 seasons.
Yeah, right.
So, my number 8, I actually have Tori. And my reasoning for this is I'm just worried for Lindsay a little bit more because there hasn't been much Lindsay on this show. And this would be a good spot if Otaku was going to go for her to go. I put Tori here because I honestly feel like we're getting a bit of an underdog edit from Tori, but she is not the underdog of the season. I think Romeo is the underdog of the season. Tori just happens to be the one who is trying to scrap the most. I do think though Tori is a jury person on this season. I don't see her going here, mainly just because we've seen her scrap, and I don't necessarily think everybody dislikes her as much as we were led to believe early on. It's just somebody had to be the other option. And therefore, Tori was the easy person to be that other option.
Yeah, I like that pick. And I also think Tori and Drea have now a few times had like misconnections with each other. And this could maybe be their opportunity to actually work together. Or if Tori is going to do exactly what she says and be a free agent, then that's probably a pretty good gig to have right now because a lot of other people are breaking up. I have Lindsay at 9 and then Tori at 10. Lindsay is obviously the lowest Taku who I have. I think, and it's really a result of, I think she's close with Marianne, but she's just the one we've seen the least of from that tribe. She does have this combined extra votes, so she either has automatic allies or people who are automatically trying to get rid of her. And then I think also if Blue and Green decide to team up to try to get rid of somebody on Taku, which I guess 50-50, Lindsay would probably be the one that they go for. But so Lindsay at 9, Tori at 10. I think Tori's in more trouble just because I think declaring yourself like wanting to be a free agent at the merge, it can be really helpful, but it can also make you a very easy choice for everyone to get behind.
Yeah, I'm a little wary of some of these people that I have in the bottom 4 who I have Lydia, Rockstory, Chanel, and Tori in the bottom 4. And I'm a little wary of a lot of them because I don't know where they're going to fall within the Survivor is such a social game. And if you're like right before the merge, like I'm going to ditch all the social capital I've ever made for the first 12 days. That's not like it can work. It just is really dubious. It's a very, I don't know what that's going to look like for you, Tori, or potentially Chanel, who's also at the bottom of her tribe and would probably be the next to go if they had to go back to tribal. So yeah, I ended up having Roxroy after Jonathan.
I have Roxroy also at 9. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't love Roxroy's game. I think he's not gonna win. I feel confident about that. But I'm also like, like I did argue earlier, there's a chance he could become a circumstantial boot if he's eligible, and he's not probably gonna have a great social game. We've already seen evidence of that. Maybe people don't feel like they need him. Maybe he's expendable to a lot of people. Whether Blue decides to cut him loose because they have to, they're willing to get rid of him, or because maybe Orange and Green team up and suddenly Blue's on the outs. I don't know. But yeah, Rockstory was there at 9. Did we talk about 10 on 2? Did you guys already talk
Alexa
about your 10s?
did, but I have not yet. So if
Okay.
you want to go at your 10 first, go ahead.
Okay, I can do 10 then. And this will reveal also my bottom 2 because we're at 10, 11, and 12. At 10, I have Lydia. And that leaves Chanel and Tori at my bottom 2. Lydia is she's the player that doesn't have, I can always sort of tell early on that she doesn't have a lot of pull in the game. And I don't think she's a power player in any rate. She's too young in a way. And I don't think being young is necessarily a cause for that, but it's also I think being young in Survivor doesn't help in some ways, because yes, you can be underestimated. We've seen players win being underestimated and being young. Fabio, Jenna, Adam Klein to some extent. But Lydia doesn't seem to have any pull or influence. And so I worry that she'll become more expendable if Vati, if the Green Tribe is in everyone else's sights. And I feel like Vati is not looking good if I were to really break it down. I think they have the least cohesive tribe of the three. So I'm looking at these three, which is why I have Mike high, because Mike has an idol and I think he's shown to be the most competent. I look at High and I'm like, I think he could be in trouble, and I could see High getting targeted. I could equally see Lydia being the safe vote that people decide to put votes on, because it'd be too obvious to take out High or whoever, or Chanel maybe. That being said, I do have Chanel lower than Lydia, so we'll see. But I have Lydia at 10.
I have Chanel at 10. So look at me being the Chanel stan. Yeah, Alexa, I've replaced you as the Chanel stan.
Freaky Friday.
I know. I put her at 10. I just I think Lydia and Lindsay, and again, this is kind of more meta, but I'm looking at the confessionals and like how much we've seen of each of them. And I agree with you, Pretty. I'm like, what have we really seen from Lydia that tells me she's in control of this game and she's got to keep going? Same thing with Lindsay. If Lindsay or Lydia go home this week, we're not missing much at the merge. Now, I still think both of these could be great characters. I really do. But from what we've seen so far, those two feel like the two are being set up to me to go home this week as this, hey, let's not piss off our fan base more than we need to, and let's get rid of one of them. I do think that Lindsay, so I'll finish mine out. I put Chanel at 10. I don't think Chanel is long for the game, but I don't necessarily think she goes this week. I have Lydia at 11, and then I put Lindsay at 12. And my reason for Lindsay being at 12 is also that she has the amulet. And I actually think that could hurt her a lot if there is the opportunity to vote her out, because Drea and High could say, let's get rid of her. And Drea and High both had a lot of pull on their tribe. Mm-hmm. And if they say, let's do this, so we only have to do now we can get a steal a vote. This would be great. Like, we're getting power, and she's a sitting duck. That's why I put Lindsay at 12. But Lydia, to me, there's not as much as I thought we were going to get of Lydia. I know on that preseason thing, I said she could be the fan favorite. And I kind of just threw that out. The first episode, I was like, damn, she's funny. I like these confessionals, everything. And then she's just been very hit or miss. Last week, she had a lot, but I don't really account much for that because she went to the summit. So that's different. Not loving her chances right now.
I was surprised after the premiere episode with Lydia. She got that like Christian Hubicki like montage of her talking. And I thought, all right, strap in. It might be like another Christian type edit. I love that. I think it'd be hilarious. And she certainly has the personality. If you check online, she's got jokes, and like she was cast. She's not a super fan. Like, I don't know if you know, like she met Jeff Probst at a music festival.
Okay.
And Jeff was like, hey, you should go on Survivor. So she got on Survivor. She's like, I don't think she'd ever seen the show before. And it kind of shows a little bit, because it's like, seems like it's really going past her a lot. And I feel like she's the player who's kind of, not ready for this as much as anyone else. But yeah, that's Lydia. That's Lydia.
All right. Finish yours out, Alexa. We'll let Peridiam finish last.
Yeah, I have Lydia at 11 and my girl Chanel at number 12.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm bummed about like the lack of Lydia we've been getting. I've similar to you guys, like she was so exciting in the premiere. So maybe it'll be a bounce back for her. But unfortunately, I think people are going to know that High is in control, and people typically will go for getting rid of Robin instead of Batman at the beginning. So I think getting rid of Lydia could really could handcuff High quite a bit. And I also don't really know. I don't think she and Roxroy really hit it off last week. So I just don't really know who else.
To say the least.
To say the least. And this is all dependent on if Mike stays with them too. And then Chanel, I don't know. I think her tribe doesn't trust her. I think the only other person she knows who is Omer is not going to be happy when he realizes she's the reason he doesn't have a vote. So I'm really nervous for her. I hate to say it because I love her.
I don't.
I want her to win, but I'm currently concerned. And that's what I have to say about
I just got to throw this in before Peridiam goes.
Yeah, go for it.
With that summit last week, just imagine what it would have been like if Lydia and Roxroy ran into a bar together, like, and let's pretend Roxroy's not married, right? And like he goes up to Lydia and starts talking to Lydia. Like that could go down as like the most awkward like bar interaction in the history of really bad bar interactions. And they just had to walk up a mountain together. Those two have nothing in common. There is no way they're connecting. Roxroy's kids are younger than Gen Z. He's really probably hoping like, I don't know who this girl is, but my kids better not grow up to be like her, which I think is kind of a compliment, honestly, because I really think Lydia is hilarious. But, you know, if you're like that dad who's just like, what the hell is Lydia doing? They have nothing in common. Nothing at all.
It was awesome.
And just to see that, like I said, it was the Survivor editor's worst nightmare. Like how the hell did these two end up?
Part of the reason I enjoyed it so much was because it was the Survivor editor's worst nightmare. Like top 5 most pointless scenes in the history of Survivor. That's like up there in consideration. I almost looked at that and went, wow, I'm so inspired by watching them say absolutely nothing for 5 minutes. And they did so much. And that's usually supposed to be like this climb and they're all like sweeping. And then they all like, this was the Shan and Liana episode last season, which was arguably one of the most important scenes of the entire season that dictated so much of the next episode and the rest of the post-merge, and had one of the best episodes of the season, if not in Survivor, with the Shan boot. So yeah, this turned into the exact opposite. You could not go further from that. But I appreciate that in some way, in some meta way as well. I've watched so much Survivor. It's very often you get middling scenes or like forgettable. Like, this was so bad that I forget. That made me remember it.
Yeah,
for how little they said. They're like, we're not talking about anything. We don't have any strategy to compare. We're both being cagey. They both protected their vote.
Yeah.
They both protected their vote. Roxroy, you shouldn't have done that. Like, come on, you know Lydia's gonna do it. Like, she's not gonna pull Chanel, right? Like, he could have had that knowledge is power, most likely.
Is Roxroy, if Roxroy goes and is the person who smashes the hourglass, is he the one person that Survivor could have asked for to not smash the hourglass?
She's like the last
I must
person.
play it safe.
Right. They're like, if they see what they got in episode 5, they're like, please God, anyone but that.
Yeah.
You know, if this is what he's going to give us. But either way, yeah. I ended up having Tori at 11, Chanel at 12. As I Chanel at my bottom as well, Alexa. And partially because she's been a hot mess in this pre-merge. She's kind of, and Tori to an extent too, especially earlier of the season, the first few episodes. There's just something about, I look at them both and I'm like, they're sort of both in the same spot. They both don't connect on their tribe. They both would be the next to go. They both don't have much loyalty. And even though they're in like a nice extra vote position in the post merge, and that could even be Erica to some extent. Like Erica went on to win. I don't know where I would have ranked Erica in power rankings last season going into the merge. She was also considered one of the people at the bottom of Luvu and maybe would have been voted out. And there she is. She gets picked last, gets sent to exile, goes on to win the season. So maybe we're going to get that with Chanel or Tori. Something tells me we're not. I feel pretty good about it, to be honest. Just looking at what we've got through these 5 episodes, I'm like, oh man, that whole Chanel getting taken. Her and Daniel at that one episode 3 tribal with Jenny. That was a doozy. That was enough for me to be like writing them both off. Even though I like Chanel. I like the whole over the top gamer. She's hyper strategizing. I would be afraid of that because it's just like she's going to be all over the place. And I would fear, like, look what happened with Daniel. She beat him. She just straight up beat him at his own game. He's a massive super fan. He like chronicles how much he listens to podcasts, which is crazy. He like, I listened to his exit interview and he's like, Rob, I've listened to you for like 1,000 something hours in my life. And I'm like, damn, like this dude he's the Survivor nerd of all of them. Like, and I'm a nerd too, to be fair. But yeah, I say I'm a geek. I feel like nerd's a little more derogatory. And if I had to pick a word, I'd say I'm more of a Survivor geek than a Survivor nerd, but you know, whatever. Ultimately, yeah, I'm like, you know, Chanel is at the bottom because I think she's going to draw more heat also between her and Tori. Yeah. Tori, I don't know. I mean, I could see Tori going too. I'm not, they sort of fill the same slot in that position at the bottom for me. I know. They're both there. So I had Tori and then Chanel.
I'm the only one who thinks Chanel's safe. And I'm the only one who got called out in the chat as literally having a problem with her. So I'm just saying, got her at 10.
Literally has a problem with her.
Literally. And I got her so safe that Peridiam and Alexa, you guys are going to look foolish next week when Chanel's still out there on the island. Interesting, though, that you both had her at the bottom. I actually thought I was going to be a little low on Chanel because maybe at this point she just kind of becomes useful in she's not really necessarily going to win, but I agree with you, Peridiam. She did just beat Daniel at his own game, and that could be scary for some other people here. Before I let you go, Can't Win says a top 5 most pointless moments in Survivor history needs to be a video. So get to work, Peridiam. We'll see you next time.
I was sitting there brainstorming, like, could this work? Could I do this? I could probably do it. Maybe in the off season.
I love it. Yeah, please don't do that to yourself now, because I literally want the 5 most pointless. I'll be mad if there's a point.
I could think of some of them in my head.
Yeah. Millennials versus Gen X Summit. That's
pretty pointless. Things that have like no impact on the season. I could see like Lamina and Survivor Panama. There's some scene in there with like Dan and like Nick or something, and they have nothing. Like, who are these people again?
Every conversation that took place that didn't involve Stephanie from the Oolong tribe.
That's a top 5 in itself.
This is fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, this could be a good retro podcast.
It could. We'll spin it and do it for the patrons, and then Peridiam will put out the video, and we'll see if we stay.
Hey, we'll talk after. We'll make it happen.
But well, Peridiam, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Love talking about things that we don't know what the heck's going to happen. That's always good. Would have been too easy to let you come on after this episode, so we had to make sure we had you for this one.
I thought that if I was here next week, it would be a little bit easier and sit down and be like, I don't know what's happening. Well, next week we know probably what the direction of the season. So unpredictability. It's fun though. It's fun to sit down. It's interesting. We all had like similar analysis. Maybe it says something.
Says something good or bad. I guess we'll find out by Wednesday.
Yeah, we will.
We will. Well, go ahead, Alexa. Take us home, and go.
Yeah, so we'll be back 2-hour episode. So we'll be live probably right after the episode, maybe a little bit later, depending on Phil's work schedule. But we'll let y'all know it wouldn't be any later than 10:30 Eastern time. Recapping, hopefully nothing too crazy of an hourglass twist. Become a patron. We are actually probably going to do something along the lines of that for a retro. I wrote that down. I feel like it could be quite funny. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to try to continue to have some guests on for predictions and power rankings. So might see some familiar faces in the upcoming weeks, but Peridiam, it was awesome to have you on. What have you been working on that our fans could hear about?
Yeah, I mean, I put out a new video every single Wednesday. As long as Survivor's going, I'm putting out a new video every Wednesday before the episode. So yeah, if you know my YouTube channel, it's where you can find me. That's where I'm always at. Been at it for 5 years now. I'll be putting out a new video this coming Wednesday. I don't know for sure. I've worked a little bit extra in the preseason, so I've got a couple of different videos actually already ready. That's another thing I should pitch. I have a Patreon. If you want to come and watch some of these videos earlier, they're there. And so it's sort of like, because I've done the work ahead of time, I can pick and choose which one I want to put out. So I actually don't know 100% yet. I might be doing a video talking about instances of players cheating at challenges. That might be one. Or I don't know. I had another one. That's probably the number one most likely to go. So
I like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Hey, what's the Patreon?
It's just Peridiam as well. You can find it, and I really use it. I do 2 things. I post my videos early. If you ever want to watch anything earlier, it's as cheap as $2. And also every month I give an update on like what the month is going to look like and where the future is going in the next month or two, and what I'm at. I mentioned you guys. I'm going to be on this podcast coming up this week on Sunday night. So if you're reading this Patreon, they came here. Hopefully,
there you go. Hey, that works. We'll take it. Well, awesome. Thanks everybody for listening. Follow both of us, patreon.com/Survivor Specialist, patreon.com/Peridiam. And we'll see you all Wednesday night after the 2-hour